ask if you would all join me in the select board in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody, to our select board meeting, November 20th. And I always need to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded, and there's a state statute in that regard to let people know when something's being recorded. And some people are not comfortable with that. Under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. The next meeting date will be 2 weeks from tonight, December 4th. And welcome aboard. Shauna Schufelt will not be here tonight, so it's just the four of us. We do have a quorum, however. In terms of acknowledgments and recognitions, I would like to thank Carol Friedis, our Veteran Service Agent, for orchestrating the Veterans Day event, which was, in my view, very good, outstanding, I would say. And I had an opportunity to speak on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, and I always enjoy doing that. And I will end my comments by wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Is there any other acknowledgments or recognitions?
Boys soccer team.
Oh, yes, that's what you have to have on your agenda, but go ahead. Do you want to talk about it?
Oh, the boys soccer team won the championship for the state.
Okay.
First time. Huge.
First time ever, huge.
Well,
Huge.
Great. Well,
Came
congratulations.
home with like all the police trucks and fire trucks, brought them into the high school. Very cool.
Great. Okay, well, I know Jim had on his town administrator report the accomplishments of our student athletes. Great. Okay, anything else? All right, so we'll get into the regular business here. I think I've covered everything. I think I have. Public hearings. There are 3 public hearings to take place, and the first is a fee hearing. It's a request from the Beach Committee to raise the beach pass fees. That was mentioned by the chair of the Beach Committee recently, and it was agreed to consider that, and it requires a public hearing to get comments from the public in that regard. Jim, if you could tell us what this is about and tell us what fees are being proposed that we need to consider.
Is Sean coming tonight?
And then you didn't hear back from him tonight?
So the Beach Committee had voted, and they had recommended that the fees for the standard pass be increased from $35 to $50, and the senior pass from $15 to $25. It's my understanding that the Beach Committee looked at a few different options and felt that increasing the fees one time as opposed to increasing it incrementally over the next few years would probably be beneficial not only to the budget, but also just make it easier for the process itself.
Yeah, well, we did have some conversation at the time, and I generally do not like big fee increases, even though they're infrequent. But anyway, there was discussion, and it seemed to be needed in view of the difficulties we had last year. So anyway, this is a public hearing. First of all, I'll entertain conversation from the select board, and then we invite anybody who would like to stand up and speak, and you will be heard in a public hearing. We encourage that. So any comments from any of my fellow select board members? Okay, and once again, that's substantially a big increase percentage-wise, but in dollars, it's, I think it's a bargain for our citizens to be able to use these beaches for this cost. But in any event, other people may feel differently about that. I understand that. So this is what is being proposed, as Mr. Hartnett has pointed out, and now we'll entertain from any members of the public, if they wish to make comments, feel free to come to the microphone and identify yourself. And you'd be certainly welcome to speak. Nobody's taken me up on that offer, okay. Well, that would suggest that there's no opposition to the we're hearing. So what is the pleasure of the committee?
I move that we increase the fee for beach passes from 35 to 50, and for seniors 15 to 25.
So moved. I mean,
Seconded?
Okay.
A motion made and seconded. Further discussion on the motion?
This was a recommendation. We know we can't get lifeguards. It's more expenses. They want to clean up the beach more. They need money to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and, Jim, do you know how long it was since the last increase?
I
That was-
don't think it was that
Couple
long
years
ago.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was a
like
few
2,
years
3 years ago, 3 years
Since
ago.
I started.
And that was modest. That one, I think that raised, by $5. So, okay, any further comments from the public? Any comments from the public? No? All right, any further discussion? Then it's time to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None, and there'd be 4 in favor, 1 absentee, and none opposed. So the motion carries, and that, we'll put that into effect. Jim, what happens next? Now, I know this isn't preparatory for the upcoming season, but when would we be able to process applications from the folks in the town?
It's a good question. We're switching over to an online permitting system.
Mhm.
We're hoping to have it ready for January 1st. It's possible that we have to put it back a month, but we're pushing for January 1st right now.
Okay.
To share, do we need an effective date on that, or is it effective immediately?
I would suggest for the 2024 season.
Do we need to modify the motion or a separate motion for that?
Well, let me,
Make sure it doesn't.
yeah, let's just think about this a little bit. I don't think this is for the 24 season. I think this is from here on out. That's the way we do it. I don't think we've ever done this and set it for a season. When we increased the rates last time, it continued at that rate.
I understand, but usually we have to make an effective date when we do a fee
Oh.
increase. Even though this is beach, it wouldn't be till next year, I understand. Just making sure we do it right so we don't have to bring it
Yeah.
back up, that's all.
Good point, and we want to be correct here. Well, we could have an amended motion that includes that it's effective immediately, and just, that's all I think we
Is that
have
what
to
you're
say.
thinking? Jim?
I don't think anyone's getting a beach pass now for
Yeah, I know, I just want to make sure
2023.
it gets done right, that's all. Do you think we're covered, Jim?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we're covered.
Okay, fine.
You approve the increase unless you want to do it at a later date. You would need an effective
No,
date, but
I
as
would
of
think
now, you're good.
Immediately is good.
All right, and that's understood. So I think that's already in the motion, because we're not changing anything substantially.
Great.
All right, so that motion did pass, and we are ready to proceed with the issuance of beach passes when it's possible with the new software and everything, which should be a good thing for our citizens. And I think we also getting away from the beloved tags and that you put on your rearview mirror and using
Paul may
stickers.
know better
It's
than
gonna
me.
be a sticker.
Yeah,
for
we're
the
not
back
gonna know each
bumper.
other anymore.
Over the window. I suggested back bumper, but it might be for the window, like the dumps. I don't have a dump sticker, so I don't know, but I know years ago you used to put a dump sticker in your window, so.
Yeah. All right, well, it's changing. I wonder if we'll hear something about that. Probably more about that than the fee increase, right? Okay. All right, well, that's done and it's completed, and you could also notify the beach committee as appropriate. Okay, so that was the first item under public hearings. The next item is the grant of conservation restriction for Otter Rock Farm. Jim, again, could you lead us into discussion on this, and then we'll go from there?
I think we have Russ Moran here from the trustees that can probably get into more detail, but this would be a private restriction held by the trust. The town has to just sign off on the restriction.
Come forward. Glad to have you. We know who you are, but if you don't identify yourself,
Thank
for the
you.
record.
Everyone, my name is Ross Moran, I'm the Executive Director of the Westport Land Trust. They also have, introduce yourself.
Oh, thanks. David Palmer. I'm the property manager caretaker of the farm in question.
So what we have is a 73-acre conservation restriction that is being conveyed to the Westport Land Trust by the landowner of Otter Rock Farm. This farm was, it meets a lot of spectacular criteria for preservation that the town looks for in sort of the master plan and a variety of efforts. So I'll just hit some points on that. And so In terms of local agriculture, this farm has 35 acres of prime and statewide soils. There's not a lot of properties left in town that have that level of acreage left of prime and statewide soils. And in addition to that, about 15 acres of what we call locally important soils. That means soils that are maybe not prime, but have been farmed over the years. The local farm produces feed for other farms and also has a farm that works with it, that sells beef locally. So it's a part of our agricultural economy. It's a contiguous tract with another preserved farm to the south, both of which, the two of them combined, make up the former Duval farm, which is, you'll notice Duval Pond, the namesake of Duval Pond. So the Duval farm was at one point several hundred acres, and goes back to about 1800 or so. So the Otter Rock Farm has been working for over 200 years here in town as a farm, which is really spectacular. In addition, the farm itself has about 72 acres of critical natural landscape, which is identified by the Endangered Species Program in the state, providing a diverse range of habitats on site, both wetland, freshwater resources, grassland resources, forested areas, really diverse area on site. And it's also a cultural resource. As I said, it is one of the oldest working farms left here in town, and I know David wanted to share a couple months about that.
Feel free to do so, David.
So I've worked there about 12 years. My cousin Barry Tabor, who was a stone wall builder most of his life, had worked there for over 20 years, restoring and upkeep of the stone walls that border the property and also that border all of the hayfields. This is a really very unique property that is, from a lot of people that get the privilege of going there, which are very few, that have seen it, everybody that goes there says that this is like a museum quality property. And I'm not saying that because I'm the one that takes care of it. I'm saying that because the people that go there the 1, the 2, the 3, 4 times, or on a yearly basis like Ross, they are in total awe when they see how well kept the property has been taken care of. Not just the 12 years I've been there, but just over time. You can tell that this property has been very well loved and cared for a good number of years. One of the things that I was given about 2 years ago was this report that was done in 1988 from the Massachusetts Historical Commission. And just kind of one of the paragraphs that sticks out is Duval Farm is another several remaining in Sodom Road area farmsteads. This one does not appear to be actively farmed, this is again in 88, but retains an interesting collection of stone barns and surrounded by fields and woods with no modern buildings in sight. The circa 1800 house is a 1.5-story shingled structure enclosed by a gabled roof with a center chimney. It is extended by a large rear L with a veranda. Unfortunately, all the windows have been replaced. And just quickly, to kind of talk about some of the old buildings, there are 4 buildings that are very unique there's large granite stone that are not the foundation, but they are the first floor actual walls of the actual buildings that are still intact today and used. The buildings are intact. So it's just a very unique property. I'm extremely happy that it's being preserved. The owner of the property, who has owned it since 1982 actually, is extremely happy that it's not going to be developed and that it's going to stay as a farm, which has been her dream since she's owned it.
Ross, maybe you can explain, probably for the public's benefit, because we've done these a few times, is just what are the steps we're doing here? Obviously, the select board is to grant the conservation restriction, but we always talk about...
So the landowner grants the restriction to the Westport Land Trust in this case. In many cases, we've worked with the town where we co-hold a restriction. A lot of times that's when we work together on a CPC project or maybe something else. In this case, the landowner is just conveying the restriction to us. To monitor that restriction longer term. The select board signs off on that as a part of the state MGL. So.
What would be any benefit or detriment to joint holding, which I guess is true in other cases, as opposed to just
Well, in this case,
Land
the
trust.
landowner is just choosing to convey that
Yeah.
to us. And in other cases, when we work on other farms together, there's not necessarily a detriment in some ways. It's just a different
Yeah.
a different way of doing it. So.
I mean, like down the road, is there anything legally that doesn't exist in this case because the town is not going to hold the restriction?
No, not necessarily. It doesn't affect the town in any way. Yeah.
I don't think so, Jim. You-
Now,
that'd be-
it would just give us enforcement power if we wanted it, but I think the trustees will probably handle that going run instead of the town, so.
Well, I think your track record there is established and it's well recognized.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Finances, how does,
So in this case, it's being conveyed to us at no cost. The land trust takes on the cost of the enforcement longer term.
okay. All right. Questions and comments first from the committee, then we'll ask for public comment. Any thoughts? I think these are fairly, we know the purpose, we
Well
definitely
presented.
embrace the purpose of doing this.
I've been to the farm, it's absolutely gorgeous, it's
Mhm.
so nice. So it's amazing that we're doing this.
I'm glad it'll be preserved. This is a public hearing. I would ask if anybody wishes to speak to this issue from the public. Feel free. If not, that's okay too. Okay, then I think I understand this, and the explanation has been very clear. What is the pleasure of the...
Motion to grant the conservation restriction.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion?
Just curious, how much of the Duval Pond is on that farm?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say there's at least 1,000 feet of frontage on Duval Pond on this property, from
I
this
think it's
property.
the second largest
Yeah.
frontage owner.
Yep.
Because that, like, one of those nice stone walls abuts the Martins farm too, right?
Correct.
And they got a little piece of it. No, I've watched them work on those walls over the years. It's like-
Incredible.
It's a daily thing.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further comments that might be from the public? Because this is a public hearing I mentioned. If not, then I think it's time to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, and one absent, so 4 in favor, none opposed, and 1 absent, and the motion carries. Good luck. We thank you for your
very
efforts.
much. We appreciate it.
And it's a wonderful thing you're doing. Good night, folks. 1C is also a public hearing, request from Jose Luis Rostan Cordero, the owner and manager of LNS Auto Mall Incorporated, for a Class 2 motor vehicle license and a repair license at 1052 State Road, Westport, Mass., with a total of 50 cars. This is an item that was continued from November 6, 2023, because we were seeking additional information. Jim, you could lead us here.
So this was continued from the last meeting. There was a lease that was submitted with the application, and there was some wording in the lease that gave others the right to sell cars and put cars on the property. Since that time, the applicant has removed that paragraph from the lease. We did get another email from Lieutenant Kudo today. I'll just read it. After going over the new lease provided by the lessor, the article in question was removed from the lease. Language was added reading that the landlord will only be allowed on the premises for the purpose of making repairs and collecting rent. The owner will not be allowed to use the facility or its licenses or any privileges granted from either. With this amended lease in effect, I would refer back to the original recommendations in report number 23-516 OF, which reads, in part, that I find no reason not to issue the license to the applicant. I believe Paula also inquired in Fall River. This applicant has a facility in Fall River, and there were no complaints or issues with that facility.
Mr. Cordero is here, and if you wish to come forth, please feel free to speak to the issue. Good evening.
How you doing, guys?
Good, good. Thank
My
you.
name is Jose Luis Roston. Yeah, I have another location in Fall River, and I'm partnered with repair shop near.
Mhm.
So now I move on to this place because I find it online,
Okay.
and I try to get a new business this side.
Mhm.
So because like having a dealership I has to have a place to work in.
Mhm.
And
Right.
in that place I found, I have at least so I can work and do repair.
Mhm.
And I don't have to basically go to another shop to pay them to
Mm.
do my job.
Mm.
So
Okay.
that's the more important thing for me, and definitely I already have a location in the other side that need to move car at all times. So
Mhm.
being moving from here to there is too far away,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
So at least this place have a place so I can fix the car at
Okay.
the same time, and I don't have to be relating to someone else to when they have the time to work in my cars. So I need to, you know.
Okay. What is, this is not necessarily a question for you, Mr. Rustam, but what is the business at that location today?
Well, it's been, they had a used car license there years ago when it was suspended. They've been doing some car rentals, not sales, over the last year or two. I'm
Mhm.
not sure the name. Paul would know the name of the place.
Okay. Not that important, I was just curious, really.
Affordable auto rentals and
Yeah.
sales or something like that.
That's the
Okay.
label they have.
Okay.
I has to remove it, see I get it approved.
Hmm.
So without you guys give me the authority to do anything of that, basically, I'm
Right.
holding them because
Yeah,
waiting for this.
okay. Further comments from the board? And we'll get public comment too, if anybody wishes to speak to this issue from the public, all you have to do is come to the microphone. I don't see anybody doing that. So then what will be the pleasure of the committee?
If I could, this was signed off by Ralph, mainly because it's concerned because it's near the wetlands in this one. We've had issues in the past.
This goes
Can't
way
tell.
back. I believe he signed off previously, yes. It's paved where they'll be parking the vehicles, so they're not looking to expand beyond the existing pavement.
All right, because that little repair shed thing that used to be there, I guess they removed and put in cars there now, so. All right.
So they have an existing parking plan for the layout?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, I think it's in
I
our,
don't see any sign-ups, we gotta,
it's in our package.
it's like a pie shape now.
Is that a question for Mr. Cordero?
No, that'd be more on our end to make sure our officials sign up on it.
Okay.
How about response time? Do you have anybody local? If you're coming from Dorchester, I mean, we have problems with alarms and whatnot. Do you have a local manager, or is it just you?
As me, I have somebody that work for me. But I definitely, I have the alarm system. They call me directly to my phone, see anything, you know,
Mhm.
happen.
Okay. Well, it looks like in the file, all the appropriate papers have been signed, Jim,
Yes,
and with the police report, as you have alluded to earlier. Okay.
All right, well, apparently, everything's been straightened out with our concerns, so I'll move it.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion on the motion? Any comments from the public on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, and one absent, so it passes 4 in favor, none opposed, and 1 absence. Good luck, Mr. Cordier.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight.
You too.
Be in touch tomorrow, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our public hearing items for this evening. Next group of items are appointments and resignations. 2A is a request from Chief Keith Pelletier to accept his retirement letter after 34 years of service, and that retirement is effective January 6, 2024. Now, for those who were paying attention to our recent appointment of a new police officer,
He's chief.
it was contingent upon, and it was just, I guess, a housekeeping chore, but an important one. We're supposed to accept the retirement letter of the present chief. We still went ahead with our process anyway with that understanding, but we now have to actually do that. So what would be the pleasure of the committee in this regard?
Well, seeing I appoint them, I guess I'll accept the letter with regards to send him a nice letter from the town, please.
So
My
mo-
motion.
So a motion made to accept the letter of resignation from Chief Pelletier. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on that. I think we're all interested in doing that, and I'm sure the chief is as well. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? And 4 in favor again? None opposed, 1 absent. That motion carries. We wish the best for Chief Pelletier. He's done a great job. And we also wish the best for the new chief. All right. The next item, thank you. The next item is the request. I guess, is this correct? Isn't this a request from Dana or from the Recreation Commission to appoint Amanda Mazzaferro to the Recreation Commission?
So the letter came directly from Amanda.
Okay. All right, so it's a request from Amanda,
Obviously here.
who is here, to be appointed to the Recreation Commission. You can feel free to come forward if you want, or you can stay there, and you may speak if you wish. You don't. All right, come on. Yeah, we're a friendly lot, aren't we? Most of the time.
Should we stand here or go up front?
Totally up to you,
We
really.
stand here, okay. I just want to say it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Amanda Mazzaferro to our Recreation Commission. She has visited our meeting and has given wonderful verbal contributions when she's been there. And her coming on board will make our Recreation Commission full at 8 people. So it hasn't been full for many years. So I'm really pleased to have her. Did you want to say anything?
Just thank you for the time. I have 3 small children. We're active in the community, and it's been such a great resource to have the Recreation Commission bring forth so many great events I've watched over the past couple of years. And as it's grown, I've had my own grown interest in just being a part and better enriching our community, adults and children alike, through their programs. So thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you for coming forth.
Are you good with wrenches? You got a big playground set to put together.
Yeah, new one, right?
I'll defer to Dana. Her children will definitely test out the equipment.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion made and motion seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. And 1 absence. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And we appreciate your interest in the Recreation Committee. And Dana, once again, thank you for all of what you do.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Be well. Okay, that was pleasant. And 2C, however, is a request to accept the resignation of Mr. Zachary Ryu from the Housing Authority effective immediately, and to post the vacant position through December 13th, 2023. Jim, a little background on this?
And so we do have a letter of resignation from Zachary Rio that was filed and received by the town clerk on November 15th from the Housing Authority. So this position, I'd suggest that we post it on the website, maybe with a deadline of December 13th, to see if any applicants are interested. If anybody is interested, we would have to schedule a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the Housing Authority to appoint a new member until April, until the next election.
We didn't already do that. Did he just,
We did one for a different position, I'm not sure who.
Yeah, I remember we did one too.
Yeah.
didn't we do one for him recently?
Yeah. All right, motion to accept and to post as requested.
Menard, Roger's wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to accept the resignation of Mr. Zachary Ryu. Further discussion on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Again, 4 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 absent. And that will be posted, and as you have pointed out, we'll do whatever is needed next. Okay. That concludes appointments and resignations. The next group of items would be action items. The first is to approve the job description, and I think that, let me just read it. To approve the job description for Information Technology Director for the Information Technology Director, and the employment agreement for Mr. Keith Novo. So that's a 2-part activity. Jim, a little background on this?
Yeah, so we've had a few meetings with this board in executive session to go over the details of the contract itself or the employment agreement. I've had a number of meetings with Keith Novo, and in general, come to an agreement with this employment agreement for starting July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2026. Either party with 3-month notice could vacate this agreement. Keith is our IT support here in town. He's worked on a number of projects. He's been filing monthly and weekly updates on the work that he does. A lot of it you don't see, a lot of it is behind the scenes, working on switches, working on fiber cables, working not only here, but at the cemetery, the annex, the Council on Aging, the library if needed, the police department, the fire department, the harbor master. So there's a lot that's been done. He details or works on the security issues as well with the computers. Over this past year, we were able to get all new laptops up and running. It took a little while and longer than we would have liked, but it's up. Things usually run very smooth around here, considering he's part-time and not here on a regular basis, but he's reachable if we need him. As part of this agreement, he's agreed to be available during the week, during daytime hours if needed. I think the work that he puts in and the services that we get out of it are a benefit and probably a bargain to, well, it is a bargain in my opinion, to the town. So I would recommend approval of the revised job description as well as the employment agreement.
Should we be discussing these as really two separate items with perhaps two separate discussions and two separate votes? I mean,
Sure. I
they are
think
different things.
we could vote on the job description first. The board could vote on the job description, and we could go on to the agreement.
Does that meet the pleasure of the committee?
Fine.
Okay. Even though there's one, it's written as one, it's really two parts to it. Okay, so we're discussing the job description. I mean, it's in the package, and I'm probably not the right one to ask, but it looked fine with me. I don't know if others have questions on the job description, any parts that we left out,
So
or...
we've discussed it before. I'll move it.
I'll second.
A motion made and seconded to approve the job description. Any further discussion on that item? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, so that's 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 absent. So it does pass with that being the outcome. Okay, so that's the job description. Now, the second item, second part of this would be to discuss the employment agreement for Mr. Novo. Now, we had discussed this in executive session, which is permitted, as you know, and we did so. And now we have had negotiation, and we now have an employment agreement. The employment agreement, of course, has to be approved in open session and discussed as appropriate. So on that item, Jim, you want to give us a little intro, or should we just start to talk about it?
Just, like I said, we've gone back and forth a number of times on this agreement. I think it's a good agreement. I think the rate that's being proposed, the $60,000 a year, is fair, not only to the Keith Novo, but to the town as well. I recommend approval.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the committee?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
A motion made and seconded. We have Mr. Novo here. Should we, I think we should give him a chance to speak if he wishes. You don't have to.
I mean, I guess I can.
You can use the microphone or come here. Either one. Good to see you, by the way.
Good evening. As you know, I've supported the town for probably 25 years or so. Started out with a single server and a couple of desktops, and it's certainly grown over the years. I mean, we have a large-scale network now, fiber distributed network, covering 12 buildings, 14 sites. We have multiple servers in each building. We have a distributed phone system in the building. In each of the buildings, there's numerous printer copier scanners, databases, so forth, new laptops. So, I mean, the original tasking has severely grown over these last 25 years. So, I've been an integral part of all of that. I mean, making sure all of this has grown. I've designed and built just about everything here. So I like to believe that I've contributed well to the the town in all my efforts here. And, you know, I look forward to continuing to do that with the town, so.
Well, thank you, and this employment agreement certainly would allow us jointly to do that. And we thank you for all your efforts, and yeah, you know every wire in town, I assume.
I do now, yes.
And every computer and so on and so forth. Okay, all right, so this particular action would be to approve the employment agreement. What is the pleasure of the committee?
I think we moved it, did we move?
We
I'll
moved
move it
and
anyways,
seconded.
but, Yeah.
We've taken it to second.
We just need a
Yeah.
vote.
We just need to
Just
vote.
need to vote.
Okay, any discussion on the motion?
Nope.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Was that a 4 in favor?
No.
That's a 3.
Yeah.
3.
3 in
one no.
favor, 1 opposed, and 1 absence. Okay, so noted, but it did pass, and we congratulate you and look forward to working with you again, and
All right.
we'll see you around. I'll see you at the Capital Improvement Committee, the usual
Thanks.
Yeah,
usual
all right.
places.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for being here. Good luck.
Okey-dokey.
All right, thank you. The next item is, it's about yours truly here. So there's a request from the Southeastern Regional Transit Authorities, acronym CERTA. This is the bus system of which Westport is a part, to confirm, it's his, I'll just read it, then I'll have to explain it. To confirm the Board of Selectmen representative being Richard Brewer. Okay. Now, what this is, you may have to help me explain it, but Mr. Valcourt, a former select board member, was, I called him simply the representative of Westport to CERTA, in the CERTA Advisory Board. And the CERTA Advisory Board meets almost well, pretty much every month, with a couple of exceptions, the summer and holidays. But in there, they have 2 slots. One is, I forget what it's called, it's,
Representative, and the other is a designee.
yeah, the representative is the designee. We have never talked about this at any CERTA meeting. You know, I show up, these are all remote meetings, and occasionally I miss a meeting, and there's no requirement to get a substitute. There's no real downside if the representative from Westport is not at a meeting, because the quorum is determined by population. So as long as the Fall River and New Bedford show up, we have a quorum, and we always have a quorum. I think maybe there was once when we didn't. So that doesn't mean Westport's presence is not appreciated. It's just that there's really no consequences. There's no need or requirement to have a second to take my place in case I can't attend a meeting. So Jim and I were talking about what we do with this, and I probably should have called the executive director and say, what do we do here? I don't think we have to do anything other than, I guess they're asking for me to be reappointed as the representative? Representative.
Yeah.
And I'll continue to be the representative and to go to meetings. I will take it up as a separate conversation with the executive director to say, do you need anything more for us to do? But I think that's all we have to do tonight.
That's fine. If you ever need a second person, let me know. I used to be on it.
Okay.
Because as we do Route 6, I think it's gonna be important
Yeah.
that they take care of some of these bus stops.
Yeah.
It's been, I don't wanna say super busy, but it's active now from, pretty much from Westport Tire all the way up to the Narrows, being, Sanford Road and 6. You'll see people, at work and quitting time in the morning and in the afternoon using them. Pretty much at least 6 of those stops. So we're getting a little busier. I had asked for some seats on our side, on the other side of the road, because we've been over this before, but in front of 666 State Road, our housing, there's nothing across the street. You can, if you're going to Fall River, you can stay out of the weather, but if you're going to New Bedford, you're sitting in the rain or whatever. So I think as hopefully we do Route 6, we can get some improvements in there. We need to put a bug in their ear. But for now, I'm moving your position, and like I say, if you need it, let me know.
Well, that's appreciated. And we could always have that conversation with the CERTA and see if they want us to have the designee.
I asked last time, and we got a couple of new signs out of it. That's about it. Because I wanted schedules in the businesses too. Did we make a motion in a second here?
You motioned it, there's
I
no
motioned it, I
second.
didn't
I'll
know if I
second.
had- No second.
I'll second.
All right, there you
Motion made and seconded. Okay, I'm sorry for the confusion here, but it's kind of a confusing thing, but we got the bases covered one way or the other, and so on and so forth. So, any further discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. That motion is 4 in favor, none opposed, and 1 in absence. Thank you. So I'll just continue going to the meetings. Actually, I enjoy the meetings. It's very interesting sometimes. Okay. The next items, C is 2 parts to it. There are requests to approve permits. The first is, I hope I pronounce it, Delano's Daily Grind, and this is for I'll do these separately. That would be for a common victualler license. Jim? Or Paula, I
I
know
might
you
defer
work
to
this.
Paula on this one.
These 2 items were just held for various reasons when we did the original appointment list. So the reasons have since been cleared up and they're ready for approval now.
Okay,
All paperwork, everything is in order for both of these items.
okay. Why don't we take them separately, just for clean record on both? So, do I have a motion on Delano's Daily Grind for the victualler license?
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? No. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. 401. Paul? Okay, the next part of 3C would be the ADV Corporation doing business as Country Liquor and Variety, and this is for a common victualler and liquor permit. Any need to discuss this because of the liquor, or is that they already have one of those, and this is simply renewing it?
Good.
Okay,
You lost me for a second.
They came before us a couple of weeks ago for
that's
the
right.
transfer.
Yes, okay,
So it's being renewed as is because the current owners have to renew it until all the other paperwork
right,
is
okay.
approved by the ABCC.
All right, I recall that. So what is the pleasure of the
I'll move.
committee?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. This is ADV Corporation doing business as Country Liquor and Variety. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. And again, 4 and 0. None opposed and 1 absence. Okay, thank you. Does that, Paula or Jim, conclude all of the permits? Are there any others that are outstanding that we're working on?
There are still a couple of
Yeah,
outstanding ones.
They'll come to us in due course.
Mhm.
Okay, then we'll proceed to 3D. Request to approve a wage study contract with GovHR, I guess it is GOVHR in capital letters. Funding sources, $30,000 from the town warrant article, you might recall, but that's not sufficient, so it's $11,700 also from the select board and its professional service account. Jim?
Sorry?
Question?
So at last year's town meeting approved $30,000 for a wage study for the positions here in Town Hall and within the personnel bylaws. We went out for proposals, we saw proposals, we had 2 qualified companies submit proposals. The Personnel Board, myself, interviewed both companies, reviewed their proposals, and is recommending GovHR USA. Their proposal with the job descriptions came in high. We removed the job description portion, and we modified their proposal down to $41,700. In the warrant article, there was $30,000 appropriated for this study. We do have some funding in the Board of Selectmen's professional services account, so I would recommend the additional $11,700 come from that account to cover the $41,700 for the study. This is something they believe will take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. They will go through each position. They've done this in a number of communities throughout the state, so they're familiar with Massachusetts and the way things work in Massachusetts as far as positions, state laws relating to the positions, benefits that Massachusetts employees typically get. So I think it'll be a good company. I think we'll get a good representation of what the wages are here in Westport and how they compare to other communities.
Was this originally a request of the Personnel Board?
It was, they requested a warrant article last year.
Yeah, I remember the chair addressing this issue and the need to do it, and I think it's quite apparent and obviously approved by the town meeting, except that the amount is more than we thought it was going to be. But that happens.
I'll move it.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on this item? If there's no further discussion, I assume it's time to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? And one in absence. Okay, thank you, we got that. That's an important project for the town of Westport and long overdue. Okay, 4A, in absence, Shauna's absence, and others weren't ready to come forward tonight, this town broadband update. I'd like to pass over that, and we schedule that for our next meeting, December 4th.
Sounds good.
And now it's time to start talking about the budget. It's getting to be that time of year, as we know. Jim, this is really just to kick this around and make sure it's on our radar screen, and as each meeting proceeds, we'll probably have individual things to discuss, but I think tonight we're just looking for a brief update, but you can take as much time as you wish.
Thank you. So in general, I think we're on schedule or ahead of schedule as far as the budget goes, the budget timeline that was presented to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. All the departments have submitted their budgets. I've met with each individual department. We reviewed their budgets. We've come to an agreement on their budgets. We resubmitted them back to them, and they are in agreement. I'm hoping, well, I will for the second meeting in December, get a balanced budget to the Board of Selectmen. There are some obstacles that we're going to have to overcome. We had $500,000 in free cash that was used to balance the budget last year, mainly with the school department, so that's going to be a challenge to overcome. On the town side, as I mentioned at the last meeting, we're pretty close if we're not there, but that means no additional staffing, no significant increases in any of the budgets. And it's actually, I wouldn't say it's level service, I would say it's a step below level service, but we're close. If we have to, we can make it work on the town side, and again, the school side, we're still working on. There's a couple of things we're waiting on, and we won't know until January, February, March, maybe even April, as far as the state funding goes. Chapter 70 is one of the main funding sources through the state program, or the state budget. For 10 years, we averaged about $50,000 increase in that line item. This past year, we went up $510,000. We were considered a minimum aid community as far as the schools go up until last year, when we dropped out of that category or dropped up in that category, depending how you look at it. We went from $50,000 a year up to about $500,000 increase in Chapter 70.
Nice.
So we're still trying to get a feel from the state whether or not we're going to go up $50,000 this year on top of that $500,000, or go up another $400,000 or $500,000. So we factored, or I have factored to date, about $100,000, so that could increase $300,000 or $400,000 if things work in our favor. New growth is coming in a little bit higher than we had budgeted. We had budgeted about $400,000, and I think we'll be in excess of $500,000, maybe even close to $600,000. So that will give us a little bit of money that we weren't necessarily anticipating. Looking at local receipts, we budgeted last year with about 80% of actual. We may be able to push that up to about 85% of previous year's actual, which will give us a little bit of a cushion, but it's minimal. On the town side, we're looking at all our fees. Every department has reviewed their fees, compared them to like communities, Dartmouth, Somerset, Swansea. And there'll be, we do have some recommendations that'll be coming before the board in December for fee increases to a number of the department fees. But that's a relatively small line item in our revenue. You're not going to see any significant bump in our revenue based on those fee increases, but it'll bring us in line with other communities. This year for contracts, the teachers are negotiating right now for July 1st. Police, highway, and fire will also be negotiating July 1st. Negotiating soon. Their contract ends the end of June, so they'll have a new contract as of July 1st. So those are unknowns at this point. We do have some critical positions on the town side that, depending on how the new revenue comes in, if we can fill some of those positions we've been holding off for years. Building inspector, we really need a part-time building official in the building inspector's office. The cemetery department, we're still working on addressing personnel and staffing shortages in that department. The guys over there have done a nice job filling in over the last couple of months, and things have kind of smoothed out a little bit over there. And I think as Mr. Soers had mentioned, at some point we're going to need a town engineer or some type of project manager. We just have we have a lot going on right now along Route 6. We have Route 177, the roundabout. We have Gifford Road. We have water and sewer along Route 6. We're addressing PFAS issues. Buildings, the landings, the Hicksbridge Landing. There's just a lot of projects that are going on, and we need to address that somehow.
Feel free.
Jim, can you do me a favor? I sent you something, I don't know, a week or two ago. We might want to consider adding the late fee to our permits. I sent you the thing, and I think it was a Acushnet made it $100 if you don't get your permits in time. Saves Paula some stress in January if it gives it an incentive to get their act together. We might want to consider that as a board if we don't have it now. If it's not 150, whatever.
For licenses?
Yeah.
Board of Selectmen licenses?
Yeah, any licenses we issue, it might be car, liquor, whatever it is, people that keep dragging it on, to add the extra fee, why are we doing all this extra work for nothing?
We can check. See.
Yeah, if you don't have it, I could try to find it again.
Okay.
Acushnet added it because it is a pain, can be a pain.
The only thing I would like to mention too is the fire department. There was some preliminary discussion about going to a volunteer fire department. I know the chief and the new chief are very much against that. From what I can tell, I'm not aware of any community that's gone from a paid fire department to a volunteer fire department. Every one that I know has gone the opposite direction. I think the few volunteer ones that are out there now, if they had the choice, they would go to a paid fire department, and there's a number of reasons for that. I think the chief would be best to explain them, but just a couple of basic things. You know, years ago, everybody worked in town, they lived in town. You know, you could get volunteers to show up. They'd be working down the street. If they have a fire, they go down the street and help out. It doesn't happen anymore. People are working all over the state, right? All over the country. Materials, chemicals, everything has changed, even in the way they fight fires. It's just not, to me, it's not realistic to go to a volunteer fire department.
Jim, if I could, we used to get letters about Dartmouth. Dartmouth isn't volunteer, it's call, and they get just as high of a budget as we do. Some people don't understand that. You're getting paid as a call firefighter. It's not volunteer. So you might want to keep that into their minds.
I guess if it goes further, I think it'd be good to have the chief come in and discuss in detail why it's good and why it's bad.
Oh, you said this is being discussed, but we haven't discussed it here, obviously.
Who's discussing?
Where is this being trafficked?
So it was brought up at the joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen School Committee and the Finance Committee.
Oh, okay.
I think one of the members of the school committee mentioned it as a suggestion. And then at the last Finance Committee, I'm not sure who brought it up, but somebody suggested that we look into it.
It could hurt your insurance, your homeowner's insurance
Yeah.
rates fairly drastically.
And we wouldn't have manned ambulances.
Dartmouth has,
Call.
no, they have fire hydrants. We don't have those.
Yeah.
So that's why, if you had no fire hydrants and volunteer, that rate would be fairly extensive.
Do you want to talk about your letter to the Finance Committee, just to inform everybody?
Yeah, just so the Finance Committee requested, I think from the board, I think at that joint meeting, it was discussed about a 5-year capital plan, a 5-year operating plan. Also the possibility of checking each department and see which position was legally required under Mass General laws. There may have been one more item there.
Yeah, well, this is sort of unofficial. I mean, this is a meeting of the three groups, the Finance Committee, Select Board, which Jim and I attended, and the school committee, and the superintendent. It was an open meeting, if I recall. And I don't know if I'd call these action assignments, but there were some things we understood we needed to do. And the two that jump out, or three actually. One is, in our financial guidance, we should be doing a 5-year budget plan. So in other words, there should be a projection going on. It's usually Jim who do this, and I believe Tim King did that once, and he's working on it anyway, and he's responded that that'll be taken care of. And the purpose of that is to, with the failure of the override, that we're going to wake up one year and find that we're really in difficulties. And we may or may not, but we will be doing that, and I think that's a request we can comply with, and Jim said he'd take care of that shortly. And then there's also, this relates to what I do as the chair of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. The Finance Committee, or that group, was looking for a 5-year plan. Now, we normally do that, or we do it in part, where we ask the department managers to lay out their capital needs for the next 5 years. And it's a familiar story, there are more capital needs than we have money for. And the Capital Improvement Planning Committee is the group that has to go through this and put their priorities on the various requests. And then that ends up being an article at the town meeting, as you all know. And most of that is funded from free cash, but there are other sources like ARPA money and grants and so on and so forth. So they've asked for us to do that in a more formal way, and we'll be doing that, and Jim said we'd have that ready shortly. There was also a request about the town having to support, it's called minimum state requirements, and there are certain amounts of money a town, say, would use as an example, the Council on Aging or the library, that we have to put in a certain amount to support these functions in our town. But the question really was, are we giving more, and do we have to do that, and that could be a place of savings. Now, I'm not saying we were ready to agree on that, because if we're not going to fund these entities at the same level, that has consequences. So, but it was just as a matter of discussion. So Jim is going to look into that for us. And so the point I'm trying to make is that there's been a lot going on here that's not apparent to the Board of Selectmen because we haven't yet discussed it. What we're working on is the budget now as we speak, and that would be presented in December.
Yes.
And don't we have a deadline to meet it by a certain date in February to have that to the Finance Committee?
There is, and I don't have that deadline
Yeah,
in front of me.
but
yeah.
Anyway, we could maybe at the next meeting when we talk about this is go through the timelines. But we're on top of all of that. We are doing our part. We're going about it in a methodical and sensible way. And we know there's urgency to this. Of course there is. But on the other hand, we don't want to do anything precipitous. So anyway, Jim's been working on a lot of this that falls into his bailiwick. And we'll be trying to determine if we're going to have another one of these meetings to discuss where we're at, what we're doing, who's doing what. And so that the plan is really that we come up with a rough agreement, or a rough outline of what the budget would look like with the agreement of both town departments, our side of that, and the schools. It's going to be a little bit like a crescendo. This is building, and then it's probably going to come to some lively discussion as to what we have to do in the town, and do we have to cut anything? And I don't know if we do or we don't, as I sit here. I just don't know. I mean, we're trying to meet our budget. We are meeting our budget for this year, and this, of course, has to do with the 2025 fiscal year budget. So we want everybody to know we take this very seriously. We're working on it. We just haven't been broadcasting it because we've been busy getting the work done. We'd rather do the work than talk about doing the work. But anyway, by its nature, we're going to have to get together with the Finance Committee and the schools. And the school issue is going to be big because there's not enough money in the budget for them, and they have needs. They have significant needs, and that cannot be ignored. So anyway, tonight's work was just to get this out for discussion here, and so the public knows what we're doing in this role with the Finance Committee and the schools. So any questions, comments? And Jim will keep us posted on any further updates on that, and we will find out if there's going to be another meeting of that three-part group to determine if we can move forward somehow and reach some early agreements, we hope. But anyway, I think it's going to be challenging. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better as our needs for financing in the town continue to grow, and we have limited funds available. But we work with that as best we can. So this is not an action item that we have to vote on. It's just for our own discussion and for the public awareness. So we thank you for that, and unless there's any other questions, we will move along. And the next is the town administrator report.
Yeah, so this was touched upon at the beginning of the meeting. I did go to the game on Saturday, so my report's a little outdated already, but the boys soccer team won the state championship. They beat Douglas.
Great.
They went 2 full periods with no score, and then 2 overtime periods, sudden death with no score, and then they went to penalty kicks, and they won it outright. And
Great.
it was impressive, and it's, you know, it's one of those things that doesn't happen. I think this was the first time that it's happened here in Westport, that one of the teams has won a state championship.
Well,
I think there were 89 some teams in their division, so it's an impressive feat. You know, Chris Parker on it. I'm sorry.
Was it like one of the first, they never even got to go to them before, never mind win, right?
Yeah.
I
That's
think
like,
they went before, they lost to Douglas. I remember that.
just getting there is big.
Yeah.
It's big, yeah.
Yeah, they were there a few years ago. and they lost to-
So it was impressive, and just, you know, they did have some awards this year. Chris Parker, the coach, was named Mayflower Coach of the Year.
mhm.
Marcos Dutra Africano was the MVP of the Mayflower League. Yeah, it was a great year, and it wasn't just them. The girls soccer team had a good season. They had one of their best seasons, most wins in a season. They were 13-5-1. They won their first tournament game this year, which is impressive. Their leading goal scorer is a 7th grader. She had 19 goals, and that is Lily Varaka. And they had most goals in the season. They had 71 this year. And their coach, Gary Uello, was also named Coach of the Year by the Mayflower League.
Wow.
And again, the field hockey team, they were conference champions. They were 12-6. This was their 3rd straight tournament appearance. And their coach, Jacqueline Gender, was also named Mayflower Coach of the Year. So we've had a good group over there. And golf was 7-4-3, and volleyball was 6-12. So for a small school to field that many sports and be that successful
That's
That's
remarkable.
awesome.
is impressive.
Congratulations to all of them.
Budget, we already discussed the budget in detail.
Mhm.
And then the last item is the old high school, use of the old high school. We had a meeting with the long-term building committee last week, and we've been working with representatives from UMass Dartmouth. They're interested in the space at the high school. I think we've been 3 or 4 site visits with them. They currently have a big renovation project. It's the largest classroom building over at UMass Dartmouth. It's in the final design phases. It's fully funded, so it's going to happen. Construction is supposed to start in December 24, and it will require their building to be unoccupied. So they are looking for space for furnishings and equipment. They're also looking for space possibly for classrooms or office use. The old high school is attractive to them. It's about 9 minutes away from their campus. It's something that they think they may be able to get in fairly easily. They make work. Their facilities people, their project managers, Department of Capital Asset Management was also down to view the school. So this is something they're serious about. It's still early in the process. It may happen, it may not. But I just wanted to mention it to the board. We mentioned it to the long-term building committee. And I guess what would be nice tonight is if I just get the board's blessing to continue on researching this and see if we can make this work. Again, the school department's in there right now. They use it for the admin offices.
Mhm.
And they do have the after-school program. Ideally, if UMass did come over, we'd like to keep those programs there. The admin offices are fairly, would be easier. The after-school program, because of different ages, may be a little bit more complicated, but we may be able to segregate them from, put them in portions of the building and away from everybody. So no decisions have been made. I just wanted to bring it to your attention and let you know that something we're looking at. We spent-
Well, go ahead. We have 2 members of the committee here.
It's also nice because it's more of a temporary use. They're not, so that we can gather up, put our ducks in a row and figure out what, if we still want it, it kind of gives us a little more time to figure out what we want to do with it.
Oh,
in the
that's true.
future.
I was going to ask, well, just put it out there for discussion with the select board, since we have 2 members on the long-term building committee, is how that works with what you're doing. In other words, does it help your plans? Does it impede your plans? Is it going to hold up what you're trying to accomplish? But I realize also this is a work in progress for you people. And so I'm not sure what to do with it. Again, with just discussing it, I don't think the board has any issue with that. We can decide that with a motion or a consensus, but I have a feeling that, speaking only for myself, I don't really know where that's all going. And that's what you're working on as members of the committee. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen in the end because you haven't decided what's going to happen. You're going to have, next step I understand is a facilitator for your group to
Yes.
bring along some discussion on
Yep.
this. But I haven't, we haven't had the chair of the long-term building committee come in here. I've told him he's welcome to do that, with you people obviously being here anyway. But I just wondered if this is going to interfere with anything. To me, it sounds like a good idea, but I don't really know. I need you all to tell me.
I
Not
don't
tonight,
think we
that's-
have enough information to really know. The thing I liked about it myself, I'm not speaking for the committee, is that it is more of a temporary. It's like it fills the building or makes it more full for like a year, maybe 2 years, right? I mean, it's not, so it gives us some cash and gives us some time to figure out what we want to do. Because we're moving as fast as we can possibly move, and we're still looking at least a year before we can even.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to act on whatever idea we came up with. So, for me, that's why if we can make that work, I think it's a no-brainer. But that's strictly my opinion. The committee really has not had that much time to discuss.
Well, at some point, Jim, maybe you can help us here. Will it be coming to us for a decision to vote on this, or is it something that the committee first recommends? You obviously would weigh in one way or the other. We wouldn't do anything without the recommendation of the committee. And when do you see this coming to a decision point with Dartmouth?
It's a good question. I requested kind of a timeline as to, if it was to move forward, what their timeline would be. They would be looking to get in probably July. They want to use the space as of September, so any improvements or any setup that they have to do, they would have to start in July. So that wouldn't impact any of the uses that are at the school right now for the remainder of this year. And again, I think there's still a very good possibility that even if they did come over, we could continue the uses that we have there at the school. So, yeah, I think what timeline I have is they're working on it. They're looking to come up with some type of proposal, but I don't have a definite timeline as to when that would be.
Yeah, and I understand why.
And it could change, right? It could change next week.
Right. All right, well, this is for informational purposes tonight through his report, and you all know about it anyway. So we'll look forward to more information, and at some point...
I'll make one comment. I think it's a good thing, because whatever we can get from UMass as far as rent, but they'd probably be doing some upgrades that would benefit us when they moved out. So we're trying to look into part of that, too, whatever kind of uses they use. Because I think no matter what, we're going to be hard pressed if we turn it into a municipal building. The school department's still going to stay there. So if this is a school use, and who knows, UMass might think this works a good piece and they want to keep a piece of this building and continually rent it. I mean, and again, we got the facilitator to try to help us through this, but again, none of that's going to happen fast, and if we can get somebody else to invest into the building with us, it's only going to help us.
Okay. Okay, any further questions for Jim? Thank you. We will proceed on. That concludes the town administrator report. Next, I see approval of minutes, item 6, and you have 2. Do you want to take them separately, or what is the pleasure?
Yeah, I approved.
You have to take them separately because I wasn't here for the 13th,
Okay.
right? I was on
I'll say, the first A would be November 6th, 23.
I approved the minutes of November 6th as.
Motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 4 and 0 and 1. Okay, the next part of that is B, November 13th, which is the following week.
Make a motion to move the minutes for November 13th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? None. All in favor, say aye.
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 Abstain.
And there's no abstention. So that would be 3 in favor, none opposed, and there are 2 abstentions. I think I said that right. All right, thank you. Report on the bill warrant. This is what we come here
Last
for.
time and you weren't here.
Oh, who did it? Oh my God.
Nobody put it off.
Yeah,
That one was fine, and this one is fine. It was fairly normal. It was a normal size. We had one void check. Everything made sense to me. I signed it.
Well, thank you for doing that. I did that job at one time, and that's work. That's work. You get a big pile of stuff you got to do. You did that, too.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item is the Selectmen Liaison Committee reports and suggestions for future agendas. Let's start with Manny.
Well, pretty much we touched base on the long-term building committee. We got a meeting coming up for the infrastructure. It ought to be a real good one this time. And I look forward to that and giving the board an update. You know, I'm sure I got.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
On cable, they're getting excited now that the contract work is done, and they're trying to make improvements to the channel so we get more people subscribing. They're going to be doing interviews of the various committees and whatnot. I know they're going to do bike committee. That's the other committee I was had a meeting of since we last met. Bike committee. If anybody has bikes out there, bring them to the transfer station as soon as possible, or if you're taking any, because we're going to be moving those out before the snow flies. So the transfer station has room to move. I think that's it from those two committees.
Okay. I attended a meeting, it was a remote meeting, of the Bristol County Commissioners Advisory Committee. And as you know, I'm the representative for that. And this was the annual budget, and the one we were paying most attention to from Westport's interest was our share of Diamond and, I'm sorry, Bristol Aggie. So they presented the budget for Bristol Aggie. There was discussion because the increase was pretty substantial. I actually asked the question. But the increase, which was like 40% because of some one-time items, I'm sorry, I take that back. They told me that was incorrect, and there was a 15% increase, but that had been an 11% increase in the Bristol Aggie budget from the year before. And I wondered if that would reach a more normal increase rate in the future, and they did a good job of explaining why. So the budget was approved. I took the material and I gave it to the Finance Committee for their preparation. So that was covered. And the next meeting I attended was, by the way, CERTA. We had a meeting there and just covered routine items. And I attended as the liaison from the Board of Selectmen, the Council on Aging meeting. They had a meeting the other day, a normal business meeting, and then they segued into a long-range planning, and they had hired a facilitator who did a nice job, and there will be several meetings where this will take place. And it's doing what you do in strategic planning. What's the future going to look like? What do you want it to be? Do we have the money to do it? And we just started, but it's a positive event. There have been no meetings lately of the audit committee. That will commence in early January as the town audit is completed, and those are my items. So I have no other suggestions for future agenda discussion other than the ongoing discussions with the budget. Ann?
I had just long-term building, which we discussed
Yep. Okay.
ad nauseam, so I think we're done.
All right. So that concludes item number 8.
I forwarded the board that late fee thing from the other town. Sorry, I got excited then. Just so you guys have it in an email, the example.
Thank you.
You do this out of order.
Yeah, I don't wanna mess you up.
The next item on the agenda is comments and statements. This is where we allow people from the public to come in, and if they wish to say something, they may do so. I don't know if we have somebody from the public here who wishes to speak.
Good job.
Val, I guess you're always considered to be a member of the public, and if you have
She
anything
was
to
at the
say.
cable meeting too, so there you go.
Okay, all right, so that's that item. Item number 10 is the familiar vacancy list, which we certainly let people know about. And
Yeah, but we had 4 vacancies on recreation, and she just said she filled it.
None, really.
So
Updated.
that list is not updated.
Okay.
I do have a question about the ADA, what is that?
American
Disabilities Commission.
Yeah, well, this one is the ADA Transition Plan Committee,
Yeah.
right? And that's a committee that seldom meets, And it was very important a number of years ago when there was some transitional issue. The committee has not met in a long time. There are 2 vacancies, but that's one of the committees we need to really discuss this and say, should we, do we need to continue this committee? Did it have
That's not the committee that did the beach stuff?
No, it was.
They're meeting.
Moby
No,
Mass.
that's disabilities.
There's 2?
Oh, there's 2 of them?
Okay.
Anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, maybe with the school changes, they might want to take a look too.
But this is one that we need to discuss in terms of, was the work that was required from this committee originally several years ago completed? And if so, yes, good, and do we need to keep posting this? But there is a disabilities committee which is separate, so that's why that's on there. And were you saying something about the recreational committee?
I just said we had 4 vacancies listed there, and she just said that they filled their last spot.
Yeah, we put on.
I just
Okay.
made that
So-
change before you said that.
So we might want to look at the
Some of
ones
the
we have
committees,
listed,
yeah.
is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I
We may
just,
have less empty committees than we think we have.
Yeah, we actually had a townsperson attend a Zoom bike meeting. She might be interested too, so
okay.
hopefully she'll jump on.
Well, thank you for the question. Topic 11, item number 11 is topics not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of the meeting. That's from the open meeting law. Jim, do you have any, or Paul, or any?
Nothing, no.
I was not aware of any, but this gives us the opportunity. As mentioned earlier, there is no executive session this evening, and therefore, we are reached a point where we could
Make your
entertain.
motion to adjourn.
Second. And beat me.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, none. One absence, and so the chair declares.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
I did that earlier.
Oh, did you? Okay, thank you. There you go. And good.
But I was going to say, the chair declares
Sister to you?
the meeting is
Are you having a brother?
Cook a
Is
chicken,
ended.
have some
I did.
stuff.